It's time for a little exposure. Hello and welcome to RotD Review of the Day, and today I am looking at the 2018 low-budget horror movie Exposure. Before I get into that, I am going to self-plug a little bit and just remind anybody that's watching that on October 27th, from noon to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be on location at Alfred University for a 4-hour live stream of the RotD Review channel. We're going to have reviews, we're going to have discussions, debates, giveaways. If you're a student of Alfred University or Alfred State, you happen to be in the area, come on down to the Powell Campus Center. I'll be there. I'll have some giveaways, and you can participate, you can join in, you can be on the channel. It's entirely up to you. Come on down, have some fun. Otherwise, please tune in. So as far as Exposure goes, this was a low-budget one that just kind of happened across my desk, and I liked the box art of it, the poster. It kind of reminded me of a little bit of 80s throwback. And what it wound up being was an attempt at a meaningful kind of two-character, subtext-heavy horror movie, and it really did not succeed. So to get into why and how, let's get into the categories. As always, 4 different categories, each one worth up to 25 points for a total possible score of 100 points. And the plot of this one had a couple go to a remote cabin, and you got the sense that they were trying to hash some stuff out between them. Didn't really explain a whole lot, especially for the first half of the movie or so, what was going on between them, that they were attempting to kind of reboot their relationship. And the location itself proved to be a hindrance upon this journey of theirs because it was, it had some supernatural elements to it that I don't want to get into spoiler territory on. That dealt with some pretty interesting subtext that was handled in a pretty poor fashion. And that was namely the subtext was regarding the constant forgiveness that abusees will put on their abusers, that they'll constantly, I know that there's a good person in there somewhere, and constantly go back, which is a really, really delicate subject, and it felt like this really handled it with a ham fist. I honestly, at the end of this one, even with everything that it did, I honestly don't know exactly what it was trying to say about that subtext, where it wound up landing in terms of a message. But surface level, with the haunted environment and so on and so forth, it was pretty weak. Overall, I would just say the entire thing, if I were to kind of give it a singular word, I would just say muddled. So I give the plot a 7 out of 25. The intent, I gave a 5 out of 25. It wasn't scary. It wasn't powerful. It wasn't terribly interesting. Every attempt that they made on any of those 3 levels really kind of fell flat. This was a movie that was just constantly tripping on its own shoelaces. And that was a fault of mostly the script, so it was kind of doomed from the start. But the camera work, the acting, it really didn't help at all in that regard. So what they intended to set out to do, I really feel like they didn't. And I am a big fan of low-budget horror, and I don't accept the fact that they didn't have a whole lot of money as an excuse. Some of the best, most impactful horror movies have low budgets, and they made a lot happen with very little. This had very little, and it made very little happen. The acting, I gave a 5 out of 25. This movie is primarily 95% just 2 characters talking with one another, and they really didn't have any chemistry for having that much of the movie devoted to 2 actors that were just dialogue. There really wasn't a whole lot there in terms of any chemistry. That nobody felt natural being in front of the camera. It's like, you get that kind of amateurish wooden, more thinking and reciting lines as opposed to feeling what the characters are going through and speaking naturally. So considering how much of the movie was devoted to that and how much that failed, I couldn't give it any more than a 5 out of 25. The technical, I gave a 6 out of 25. Towards the end, you started to kind of get into creature feature, body horror kind of things, and it really felt like, kind of third runner up on the Face Off show. It was just, it wasn't very good. I mean, I could see what they were trying for, and they did put some effects on celluloid, but it just wasn't terribly inventive, creative, or well done. And until we got to that part, that was largely third act, or last half of third act. That wasn't till towards the end. Up until then, we had a lot of implied scares, and I think that was really misguided, or at the very least, how they attempted to do it was really misguided. They would do something periodically through the movie where the camera would zoom in on one character's face while she was standing out in the woods or facing the woods, and the eerie music would start, and she would look very scared, but you didn't know why, you didn't know about what. At the beginning, you didn't even know who this person was. There was absolutely no connection for the audience to be feeling anything that she was feeling at that point. And so it really just kind of broadcasted in with a megaphone. The director yelling at the audience, "Hey, you should find this scary, and we're not going to tell you why, but you just should." Didn't work for me at all. So that gives us a total score of 23 out of 100 points. I am going to try and say something good and say something bad. I'm just going to be honest, really. I would not recommend this movie to anybody. I would say that, you should probably stay away from this one. However, I am interested in seeing what this director / writer could do. This was a failed attempt. I'm not going to mince words, but I think that there might be some potential down the road. Let's call exposure shaking the dust off and getting the skills honed. And I'm curious to see what will come of the future. I hope that whoever made exposure does not stop, and we'll see what happens in the future with this. So that should about do it for today. I thank you for joining me, and next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.